Hey, welcome back, and if it's your first time here, just welcome, and to this spectacular coastline. As you can see, I'm not in the usual place. This is North Cornwall. I'm up near the village town of Bude at a place called Sandy Bay, and the reason I'm here is because I'm starting a trip around the Cornish coast, starting in the north east and then going all the way around the Cornish coast, and we're going to be making videos along the way. But today we were just out for a recce. Just came down to the beach at Sandy Bay for just a quick look around, see what it was like. We were going to walk into Bude, but because of all the rain we've been having, we've had storm after storm. It's been pretty unprecedented, and there was a waterfall that comes onto the beach here, and normally it's just a trickle. If you come in the summer, it's probably not even anything, it's probably just dried up. But today, this is what it looks like. So you can see I couldn't resist taking a shot of this. So what I've got, as usual, I've got my standard DSLR with a standard kit lens, and I'm going to photograph that. But because the sun is now setting, I'm not going to be taking a sunset picture, don't worry about that. That's for amateurs and people that, you know, landscape photographers, that sort of thing. But what I'm going to show you is how to photograph that so that all the water looks like it's made of treacle. So it's all just blur. And I found a few different compositions, but the one I like most is from over there, because the water comes down through a gully and out onto the beach. And I think the best composition that I can have in a single shot is up the gully into the waterfall and take a shot that way. So the sun's in pretty good position at the moment, and it's pretty dark in here, so I should, without any need for get my feet wet, without any need for a neutral density filter or anything like that, I should just be able to get some running water. If I can't, I do have a neutral density filter I can use to stop the water coming out of the waterfall, but with the light going, we should be absolutely fine. One thing I do need to do is set the tripod up now, because I want the image as still as possible and as low as possible. I'm going to put the tripod head, which is actually my video head, on, so I can turn the tripod head around. It's a bit of a faff, but we can do it by just sliding that out of there into there. Make sure we put this bit back on, because, well, if it slides out, it doesn't bear thinking about really. So screw that back round, screw that on, and then these bits come out. I'm working quite quickly because, as you can see, the light's perfect at the moment. And then tripod head goes on. So we should get that goes in the water, and then the camera's on there, so we'll get the camera out. Now we're just using standard DSLR and kit lens. Where is it? Oh, he's in there. One thing we do want for this shot is the cable release. Just because I'm not going to be able to take the shot unless I'm completely submerged, which I don't really want to be, seeing as beginning of March and it's rather cold. Just give it a test. We are working, we are working. So the thing to do is don't put the camera on the tripod over there. Is to mount it here. Now, the other thing that I want, which is why it would be easier with my other head, is because it's going to be a portrait format. So it's going to be not like that. Camera settings. ISO. It's going to be 100, or the lowest your camera can go to. F-stop. I'm going f16 because I know that this lens can cope sharply down to f16, a bit lower than that, and it goes all a bit soft. And then I can see what the exposure is going to be. 1/4 of a second. Set the focus point up, and then very carefully, and holding on to the tripod at all times, now either make sure your autofocus point is on the subject, in this case the waterfall, or that you focus on it and then set manual focus so the camera doesn't then start hunting around for something else to focus on. And I find it best to bracket this kind of shot as the foreground is darker than the background in this case. I'll then use the remote release to trip the shutter so it doesn't move the camera in any way. The sunset, as you can see, has been a little bit of a damp squib, but that doesn't bother us because we don't take pictures of sunsets, do we? No. But the light around is still quite nice. Look at the sky back there, lovely. Sky over there, lovely. Sky where the sun sets, not so good. But what's happening now is the light levels are dropping. So if you've found that you want to take pictures of treacle water, as my other half calls it, or those really slow motion images with water just looking like it's glass, but you haven't actually got a neutral density filter, and we'll come to the neutral density filters in another video. But if you haven't actually got one, you're going to have to come out at this sort of time of night, because with the light levels dropping, with the right exposure, you can get 10, 20, 30-second exposures, which is perfect, especially when you've got a waterfall like that behind you. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to set up and do another shot. And because the shot I actually want, which will go from the waterfall there all the way over there, I can't really get that with this camera. If I've got a wide angle lens on, or a wider angle lens on, I could, but then I'm going to start getting all sorts of distortions. So I'm going to do it as a sort of panorama, but I don't actually have my panoramic head on. So it's all going to be a bit Heath Robinson, but we'll get the shot. So this bit of rock is the foreground, and then the water cascades down, and they go shot down the beach, looking down the coast towards Bude, and then out towards the sea with a darkening sky. So I'm just going to check the exposure. So that's what, between 1.6 and 2, because the light's fading all the time. I'll then move it round to where I want the shot to finish. And I'm using f18 here, but I'm going to just nip that up to f16. Bring it back round. And with panoramas, you usually have about a 10%, 20% overlap. I'm going to do a bit more than that, because the way that this is going to work, normally you would use, with a panorama, you would use the nodal point. But I haven't got my nodal point head here, so I'm going to have to improvise, as I said. So, bit of overlap there, because I want it starting on this square stone. Whee! So, make sure That's steady. Tripod needs to be steady, so the other thing I'm going to do is, so this is out of focus, I'm just going to focus on where the waterfall is, put it onto manual focus, move the tripod head, so we've got plenty of overlap. So I'm probably going to take maybe 8, 9, 10 shots here, and as the light drops, the longer the exposure is. And as long as you've got a sturdy tripod and a remote release, you can take all the long exposures you need. As long as there's some light, I'm using a low ISO, so grain won't be an issue. I've got noise reduction setting up high on the camera, so noise won't be a problem. And you'll see when the image comes along, the light in the sky will be beautiful. The water will just be completely moving, so it'll just be a complete blur. And you'll have an absolutely lovely set of images. One, and then plenty of overlap here. I'll just take you around with me. Two, plenty of overlap again. Three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then we'll just do one more for luck. And that is how you go about taking long exposure pictures of waterfalls onto a beach. I'll just come around this way just because of the wind. That's how you go about taking waterfall pictures on a beach when you want to have the water, all that nice creamy misty treacle water, and you don't have a neutral density filter. All I've got, sturdy tripod, always important. If you haven't got a sturdy tripod and you can't afford a brand new one, buy a second-hand. A second-hand sturdy tripod is way better than a cheap brand new one. So always go for the sturdy option. If you can't afford it, second-hand. All you need is that, a cheap eBay bought shutter release, remote release, DSLR camera, standard kit lens, and a little bit of know-how, and you're good to go. So here are the pictures that I took this afternoon.